Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to today's study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and welcome to a very famous day all over the world, especially in India, Gita Jayanti. It's the day the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, and it's celebrated throughout the world, and it's the day to really everybody pick up your Bhagavad Gita and read it. And we have special guests today. But before we introduce our special guest, Miss Mara, do you have any announcements for today?
Yes, we're back to recovery group meetings today at 12:30 and 1 Eastern time. And Cult of Cain Asana class at 10:30 a.m. for Patreon members. And then no show tomorrow, but we'll do Q&A day Sunday morning.
Okay, so if you don't know what Cult of Cain is, because we just sort of rolled that off, that's a yoga class with Josh Cain. He's got a massive following of people that love his class. You get that class, and you get Sweet Baby Krishna, which we did yesterday. If you sign up for our Patreon account, it's patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages. It's a way of just showing us some appreciation and support. Support. A way of showing support. It's a community-supported podcast. Kastuba is live in Mayapur, a holy city, famous for chanting the Bhagavad Gita. How are you, Prabhu?
Wonderful, Raghunath. It's a beautiful day. I'm excited to talk about Bhagavad Gita today. It's such a satisfying subject matter, you know?
Yeah, and I see in the background you have Road Rage and Govinda Priya, two of our regular Zoomers and good friends of ours. And they made it to Mayapur, so we're looking forward to seeing them in India when we come. Mm-hmm. Without any further ado, would you like to introduce Vaisheshika Prabhu?
I'd be happy to. You know, Vaisheshika Prabhu is someone that we brought on our show quite a few times. For me, there's no one that I can think of more appropriate to bring on the show than on this day than Vaisheshika Prabhu, because for me, he's like a living, walking representative of Bhagavad Gita. You know, he knows it backward and forward. He's deeply imbibed it into his life, and he just kind of he's like he's like a personal Bhagavad Gita walking around. And not only does he know it and live it, but he distributes it very widely. And one thing we need to discuss is this yearly campaign to distribute thousands and thousands. He can tell us exactly what the goal is this time: distribute thousands of Bhagavad Gita. And this is a chance for all of our listeners to take part in that. But Vaisheshika Prabhu, I want to thank you for coming today. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure, Kastuba, Raghunath Prabhu, and everyone. And I couldn't think of a more appropriate time to be on because, as I mentioned before we came on the air, you and I were together 17 years ago.
Yeah. For
Gita Jayanti. It was a memorable time. We sat together and recited the whole Bhagavad Gita, all 700 verses in one day.
Yeah. We that was at the Broome Street Temple, Eddie Stern, where I used to have a Krishna temple with him there on Broome Street, obviously. And on this day we would do it's a beautiful ritual where you have you have the fire. Somehow we managed to do this even in the indoors, right? Like you build a fire pit and you get the fire going there, and with every verse there's an offering of ghee into the fire. It's a way of offering it to Krishna or to Vishnu, but you say swaha and throw grains and throw ghee into the fire, and you go through all 700 verses. I think the way that we did it was we would go through a whole chapter chanting the Sanskrit, and then we would comment on the whole chapter, like give a summary of it. And having you there was great for that too. It was a joy. My wife and I still talk about, you stayed with us in our apartment for a few days at that time, and you were so thoughtful in so many ways. It's such a.
Well, I was probably inspired by the environment. I've never been in a cleaner, more spiritually surcharged environment in my life, and suddenly a brutish person as myself was transformed in your presence.
Okay.
But Kaustuba, I just say quick. I mentioned that I notice every time on Gita Jayanti when a group gets together and recites the whole Bhagavad Gita, which sounds like a very, laborious task.
Yeah.
No one ever says afterwards, "Oh, I'm tired." Everyone always says, and this is not an exaggeration, "Can we do it again tomorrow?" Because
Nice.
it's a transcendental experience, and everyone always feels that. Can we feel this again? We broke through somehow just by saying the verses together.
Yeah. I suppose if you do the Sanskrit and the English, it takes about 3.5 hours or so, something like that.
If you do them both, it'll probably take you 5.5 or 6 because
if you do them both. Oh, that's right. If you do them both.
Of course, it depends how fast you go. Yeah.
Yeah. We had a speed chanter at the Broome Street Temple. Different years that we did it there. Priest Prakash, he could do the Sanskrit very fast. They used to ask me to do the summary of the verses at the end of each chapter, and I'd be like kind of zipping along trying to look at it and gather my thoughts, and before I know it, they'd be at the end of the chapter. But let's why don't we start? Why don't we start with talking about the campaign of Vaisheshika Prabhu? Could you share what it is that you're doing, what you've been doing over the years with this Bhagavad Gita campaign, and how people can participate?
Sure. Well, first of all, several years ago, we rebranded Gita Jayanti. Practically nobody knows what that means. So we called it World Gita Day. So It has a little more general appeal to people. And it already has general appeal. It's one of the points of the Bhagavad Gita. It crosses over into cultures all over around the world, various cultures. Anyone who's read the Bhagavad Gita finds that it's commonsensical and profound at the same time. And they feel that it's not religious fanaticism at all, but it's a definition of the laws of the material nature and how to not only be in harmony with them, but also to rise above the binding forces of this world. So Bhagavad Gita, Gita Jayanti, as you mentioned before, has been an event during which for decades, at least in our organization, we've concentrated on making the Bhagavad Gita available to people. And over the last 7 years or so, we've worked hard to expand the reach. And so every year we make a goal to increase the number that goes out to people of the world in various languages. Interestingly, we set a goal for 1 million Bhagavad Gitas distributed in 2020. Does anybody remember anything unusual was happening that year?
It was a pretty crazy year.
Yeah, right.
People were losing their jobs, getting divorced. What else? It was a peculiar year for that.
When we said 1 million Bhagavad Gitas, when we announced it, that was our goal, people around the world said, that's amazing. And when we hit the goal, actually, we went over it that year. It was it was a big celebration. Well, this year, year after year, we've been increasing the number, but more importantly, we've been increasing our capacity by developing networks, or what we call pipelines, that go out to people all over the world in various venues so they can get the Bhagavad Gita in multiple languages. And now this year it's 3.7. In fact, I'm in Mumbai right now. I just flew in here last night to rally the devotees here, because here in Mumbai and various other places in India, they're doing an amazing job of getting the Bhagavad Gita out to people all over the world. So we're working with many of the leaders here in India. So this year, the goal is 3.7 million Bhagavad Gitas.
Wow.
Every year, we move the number up a little bit.
As part of this particular campaign
already,
that begins today.
This campaign, it actually began the day after Bhadra Purnima.
Okay.
And it ends officially on January 7th. So we give this swath of time so everyone has an opportunity to participate, because people are busy in their lives, and we want everyone to have a chance to do something to get the Bhagavad Gita out to other people. And so far, I mean, don't tell anybody this, anybody on this call, don't pass it on, but we've gotten more pledges than 3.7 already. So
wow.
I don't want to jinx anything, but we're sort of on the edge of our seats. Yeah, we like to keep it at a level where we can, as we say, smash the goal. Okay. And really what it is all over the world, there are devotees mobilized around this time of year to open up the faucets and let the Bhagavad Gita go out in multiple languages all over the world. It includes people who love the Bhagavad Gita and they want to make sure that other people have a chance to get it.
Can I ask you something, Prabhu?
Sure.
So you hold the faith in your mind and in your heart that it can actually help the world, that the people of the world will benefit if we can get millions and millions of Bhagavad Gitas out there. Can you share why you feel that way?
It's a personal experience I had. 1972, Martha Pollock, a friend of mine at high school, Del Valle High School, if anybody's there. 1972, she just came over to my house and gave me this copy of Bhagavad Gita. It was a small copy, just translations. And at that time in my life, I was in high school, I was 16 years old, and one important question I wanted to answer was, why do I have to die? And why do I have to do anything if I have to die? What's the point of it all? And it was a trying time. I won't go into all the details, but years before, I was greatly shaken when President Kennedy was assassinated. I had friends who died on hiking trips, all types of existential angst in my life. And then when I got the Bhagavad Gita, I had been searching for many years for some answers. And it was so complete, so straightforward, and so personal at the same time. I read it every day when I'd come home from school, and it gave me such great solace. And then I came in contact with my teacher, Srila Prabhupada, after I had received a magazine and saw an advertisement for his rendition of the Bhagavad Gita called the Bhagavad Gita as It Is. Now, even though I had read all the translations, I still had a lot of questions, because some of the language in Bhagavad Gita goes back to the Vedas. It was spoken 5,000 years ago. And I went as soon as possible and I got that copy of Bhagavad Gita as It Is. And then it really came alive for me, because the commentary given by Srila Prabhupada answered all the questions, and also questions that I hadn't thought to ask, he answered. And it's been my mainstay for 50 years. Since that time, the Bhagavad Gita, it's as if it had answered the most important question of my life, and it had given me alignment with my life's purpose by reading the Bhagavad Gita. So I feel so grateful for having received it, or it came unexpectedly into my life. That time, Martha Pollock gave me that book.
Have you reached out to Martha to thank her?
Yeah, I have. I did. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but please continue.
Well, that's it. I mean,
Okay.
it's a very personal experience. I know I trust the Bhagavad Gita. I read it every day, and it's something that really brought me to
But yeah,
yes,
and I appreciate that on a personal level, but you've kind of made it a mission to actually see that millions of these are being distributed. Do you feel that like a massive wave of the distribution of Bhagavad Gita can communicate and change the world, or have some kind of broad effect? Do books still
yes,
communicate well?
books change the world. First of all, books do communicate well. They've been in human society for uh, thousands and thousands of years. People used to find all kinds of things to write on before there was paper. And books cannot be denied. Even if people write bad books, if anybody ever given you a book you didn't want, you just can't get rid of it anyway. Books are beloved in human society. Actually, what they are is a delivery system. Books are a delivery system for idea seeds. And if you look at some of the world's most persistent ideologies in economics, in politics, in philosophy, you'll find that the origin was in a book. Someone takes ideas and they organize them well and they write them down and then they put them in a delivery system called the book and they get out in human society. Those seeds go out and they stay. For instance, most people have heard of evolution, Darwinian evolution, but most people haven't read Origin of the Species. And
Right.
and nonetheless, the book already went out. It's too late, and the seeds are everywhere, and therefore it's a thing. And America itself was the American Revolution started because of a book that was distributed in the colonies profusely. Everybody bought it. In fact, still nowadays, it's the most it's the best-selling book of all time per capita of any other book. It's called Common Sense. It's a fantastic book, so well written. Thomas Paine.
Right.
And the effect of books is still there. If you want to embed an idea in society, write a book and then distribute it widely. So yes, I do. I believe that it is an instrument for change.
Krishna was the original thought leader, influencer.
Yeah, and the Bhagavad Gita. So, okay, I'm convinced, Prabhu. Now, how can I take part? I would like to distribute maybe a case or two of these books and chip in.
Yeah, you can sponsor a case, and first of all, you can take the case yourself and distribute it. There's 24 Gitas in a case. It's $120 per case. Okay. Or you can sponsor it, and we already have pipelines that go out all over the world. We spend all year finding ways to get Bhagavad Gitas out to people in areas all over the world. We have prisons. In fact, I went to a prison in Arizona, and I went inside. They closed the door behind me too, and I thought, just remember I wasn't in here before. And
remember me.
And when I came out, I met with an inmate there whose life had been changed by the Bhagavad Gita, and incidentally, he's in with no possibility of parole, and nonetheless, he had become so influenced by the Bhagavad Gita. So I went in and I spent time with him in there. And when I came out, the chaplain who was taking me from place to place and on the little bus with all the prison guards coming out, he said, your guy's been talking to a lot of people in here. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, we need some Bhagavad Gitas. I said, how many? He said, at least 400.
Whoa.
And one person who reads the Bhagavad Gita, and he's funny too, because, he wears orange. That's what brahmacharis wear. He also has his head shaved. That's what brahmacharis do. He wakes up early, brahmachari. He's regulated, brahmachari.
Raghunath, when we were in the ashram, we were in a prison.
Yeah, it was sort of like. Well,
or is it the other way?
Because in the old days of ISKCON, they used to write the inmates of New Vrindavan.
That's right.
Inmates.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Okay.
So I asked him, why are you so happy? And he said, a lot of people ask me that. That's what I wanted to ask me, because that's when I start telling about Bhagavad Gita, and it doesn't matter where you live. because if you change your inside from reading the Bhagavad Gita, then you're free.
That is no joke, you know, to consider that you could be living under a situation that seems like the most horrific and terrifying, oppressive, and you could actually find happiness even in a prison if you know how to see the world through the eyes of wisdom, huh?
Yes. So we have these. We get books out to prisons. We get them to other countries around the world. We have South America, where people are so grateful. It's amazing the videos and the messages we get back from people who receive these books. Some of them can't afford them, and we're constantly finding ways to. In fact, we just found a pipeline to the Philippines, so we're getting books out to places all over the world, hospitals and so forth. So when you donate for, sponsor a case or more of Bhagavad Gita's, it immediately goes out. We're just waiting. In fact, there's devotees standing by to get them out as quickly as possible, as soon as donations come in.
Well, you're doing a good job, probably, because I went to a hotel not that long ago. I can't even remember where I was. And I opened the drawer, and sure enough, there was a Bhagavad Gita as it is. I was like, what the heck? Vaisheshiki must have been here giving out Gitas. It was some random hotel somewhere, and there was a Bhagavad Gita as it is.
So if I understand correctly, there's three options that people can do. One is that they can buy a case that gets shipped to themselves. That costs $120. You get 24 Gitas, and you can pass them out as you like, to your friends, to your family, to strangers, whatever. The other option is that you can just donate and say, hey, send it out through one of your pipelines. I would like to send it to a prison or to a hospital, or tell me what the other pipelines are. And you can choose one of those pipelines. And then a third option is that you can send, I'm not sure if it's any number of Gitas or if it's like in groups of 10, like you can send 10 Gitas out to 10 people that you choose. They'll mail it if you give them the address, and you can send 10 or 20 or 30 Gitas at $10 per Gita, and they'll personally be shipped where you ask them to be shipped. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Malini, who works as our fulfillment director and a lot of other things, she wears a lot of hats. It's one of the nicest people on the planet to work with. Is, I mean, like all of us on this team, we're a little crazy. So whatever request you make, we'll try to fulfill it. We also, I mean, just to give you an idea, we placed sets of Srimad Bhagavatams in Antarctica. There's a documentary about it we made recently. So we're willing to get Bhagavad Gitas to anywhere.
The extra mile, yeah.
Yeah, we'll go the extra mile. We just want to make sure they go out.
Well, Malini has a reputation of being not only like working very hard to get these Gitas out quickly, but just being a very sweet and pleasant person to get to know. And
she's amazing.
And it makes it very it makes it very easy. You just call this number, or you can also send a WhatsApp message to this number or text to this number, or you can call this number and speak to Malini personally. The number is +1 669 289 5563. Again, that's +1 669 289 5563. I think
operators are standing by.
Operators are standing by. I think that I'll donate a couple cases, so that'll be like 240. And it would be wonderful if amongst the Wisdom of the Sages community, like say we distribute like 10,000 or something like that. We could.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So think about it. It's a nice thing to do. It's as you come to the end of the year, if you feel grateful to the podcast, if you feel grateful to the devotees, if you feel grateful to the literature and the wisdom that's making a difference in your life, then this is the kind of faith that people, when you have faith in the Gita and the Bhagavatam, you say, like, it's not like I'm losing $120. It's like it comes back, in the form of so many special gifts, not necessarily material gifts, but
you talk about wanting to change the world. Here you go.
Yeah.
Distribute information. Now, do you do universities? Does it go out to universities? We always talk about prisons. What about universities?
Oh yeah, we definitely go out to universities. There are multiple university programs.
Okay.
And around this time, we provide Bhagavad Gitas at all of these programs. And we also have a program that attracts a lot of young people, children, in fact, and their parents, called Gita Champions. And these kids practice memorizing verses from the Bhagavad Gita. Some of you might want to look up online, called the Sanskrit effect. It was a study done, shows the great benefits of memorizing Sanskrit verses to the children's brains, or anybody else's for that fact.
Well, we got to get little Karuna involved in that one. I think you've met Karuna before here, Vaishesh Group.
Yeah.
She knows over 100 Bhagavad Gita. There she is, little Karuna.
Wow.
She's got over 100 shlokas memorized. She's 10 now, but even back when she was 8, she had that down. She's coming to Mayapur with us in February. Maybe the two of you could meet then.
I'd love to. Fantastic.
Now, this might sound crazy, but I would love to do an experiment where you have like a federal prison on one side, and then you have Kastuba's prison on the other side, where Kastuba's the warden. If the goal of prison is to sort of punish and rectify, I mean, how are you going to rectify a person with solitary confinement, lousy food, lifting weights or playing basketball? We've got a way actually to rectify if you really want to transform a person, you got this guy that can't go anywhere. And then you just give him the Bhagavad
So you got a captive audience.
You got a captive audience. They're dying to read anything. You give them the Bhagavad Gita. Kastuba, you should start a prison. You could be the warden.
Oh, okay.
I'll help out.
You'll be the guard?
I'll be the prison guard, but I'll be a nice prison guard.
Nice prison guard, okay.
Nice guard. And America
Talk
make
about
prashad for everybody. Let's make a Wisdom of the Sages prison. Mary, you could be in charge of the diet.
I hear they're very profitable.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Vaisheshika Prabhu. This is great. What the world needs now is love, sweet love, via the Bhagavad Gita, how to connect with Source. And you've been like the poster child for giving knowledge to people for decades now. We're very honored that you're on the show, really, to talk to us on how we can do it and how we can really celebrate Gita Jayanti, not just chanting it, but giving it to other people. Thank you so much.
Hey, he's not going anywhere, Rogo.
Oh, you're not going anywhere?
Yeah, I'm not. No. I'm not going anywhere ever. No, it's interesting. You know, we see this distribution as a high sadhana. It's not just distributing a book, but it's something that Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita himself. You'll see in the 18th chapter of the Gita, near the end.
You're taking my verses. You're taking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. You said pick out some favorite verses. You're going for mine. It's okay.
I'll just allude to them. But if you distribute Bhagavad Gita, there's a way that you come closer to Krishna, much closer, and it's a way that you become friendly with Krishna, and those who distribute Bhagavad Gita can feel that. I want to hear your verses, Raghunath. Which ones you picked?
Raghunath, what are your verses?
I've got lots of verses. Matter of fact, with my kids, we grew up playing the 10th chapter game. I turned the 10th chapter into a game where I'll say for example, suppose you and Kastuba are
I would never be able to
compete
with
me. I would say something like this to you guys while we're going for a long car drive. Out of immovable things, I am
Himalayas.
Boom. Like that. So you have 1 point. Kastuba has 0. Now say
thanks.
Right?
Want to say that a little like heavier, like 0.
Then of seasons, I am
flower bearing spring.
Boom, 1 to 1. Right? Of months, I am
the month of Mag.
Margashirsha.
Mag. Okay. So that's the game. And it helps the kids memorize it because kids just want to play games. But you can play that with your friends. You can play that with your sage groups, and it gets you to memorize the 10th chapter as well.
Beautiful.
So that's anyway. I love the Bhagavad Gita, and I don't mind jumping in first. Is it time to share our favorite verses?
Yeah. Share. Why don't we go around? Share one verse, and we'll go around and whatever, or share a few, as you like.
Okay. All right, well, this is a little cluster. I like verses in clusters. So this is 18th chapter, 67. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in bhakti, devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. You know, this word envy, it's like, I don't know. I never really used this word that much until I came into contact with Eastern thought. But the idea of you want something that somebody else has. And that's our predicament in the material world. I want to be God. I want to be the center. I live through my ego. I find my pleasure through my ego. So once you have that, Krishna just backs off. He puts a little shield around himself. You can't get to know Krishna. So it's just explaining of how to get close to Krishna. Then he says in 68, for one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. This is why to wake up in the morning. You know, why to wake up and do the show today. Today I broke my regular sadhana today, and I stayed up late. If you want full disclosure, I stayed up late and watched mixed martial arts till like midnight last night. Okay. There's my story.
Well, jiu-jitsu is right there in the first verse of the Gita, Raghunath. So.
Jiu-jitsu, right. But it ruined my job. I was expecting to wake up anyway, because I usually wake up anyway, but it didn't work, and I was a little bummed out, and I didn't get to have my japa done. So, you know. So anyway, but this is the reason to wake up in the morning. Pure devotional service is guaranteed. So I didn't feel good, but I think that what we're doing is important according to the Gita. And then Krishna says, he clarifies it even more. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he or she, nor will there ever be one more dear. And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation of ours worships me by his intelligence. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions and attains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwell.
Nice.
Isn't that beautiful?
Very beautiful.
Nice mix.
You must love those. You must live. Those must be tattooed on you, Vishesha Prabhu. At least tattooed in your heart. Hmm?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I gravitated towards those, as you noticed in the beginning, because it's so personal. That Krishna spoke this with the intention of giving it to everyone. In fact, it says that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that when Krishna spoke this to Arjuna, he solved all the world's problems in one fell swoop just by talking to one person. And then the dialogue went out to everyone.
Can I ask you a question, Visheshika Prabhu?
Yes.
My son asked me this question. I couldn't answer it. So he said, well, who spoke the Bhagavad Gita? Krishna and Arjuna? I said, yeah. He said, well, who wrote it down? Well, I said, well, Sanjaya actually explained the dialogue because he had a mystic vision so he could hear it. And he said, but who wrote it down? And I was like, who did write it down? How do you answer that question?
Actually, we just had a great scholar a couple weekends ago, Radhika Raman Prabhu, who he comes once a year and speaks at our community in Silicon Valley. And he talked about the oral tradition of the Bhagavad Gita and the other literatures, Vedic literatures that are thousands of years old. An amazing fact, the oral tradition was more easily preserved than the written tradition. When writing came into focus at a certain time, there were scribes, and they were like human copy machines. Sometimes they were illiterate, they just copied things.
So interesting.
And before that, yes, because the culture was so adherent to the process of memorizing all these, they'd actually memorize them. You'll find people in families in India called like Sri Vedi. That means that family memorized 3 whole Vedas, thousands of verses. So actually, the Bhagavad Gita and other literatures from the Vedas were spoken for many, many generations. And then there was a certain time when they were written down. Of course, we hear stories of Ganesh writing them down as Vyasadeva spoke them. I can't speak to when they were originally first written down, but actually the tradition is oral. And for various reasons that Radhika Raman Prabhu brought up, it was preserved perfectly. And especially Bhagavad Gita has been preserved in its original state because it's been commentated on, and you can follow the commentary trail back hundreds and thousands of years by great teachers of bhakti over many generations. And that record shows the Bhagavad Gita completely intact. It's been carefully guarded for many, many generations.
For a lot of people, they find that very difficult to believe, but we have people on this podcast that have just chose, you know what, we're going to memorize chapters of the Gita. And we started doing that when we were brahmacharis. I know Nityananda Chandra, he has our, can you sign up for Nityananda Chandra's memorization sloka class on our website, Kaustubha?
You write into wisdomofsages108.com and you get the info that you need to join, I believe.
Okay, we have a shloka study group, and you'll be amazed at how much you can memorize. And then you meet people who actually memorize the Gita, but memorize even bigger, voluminous, what's the word? Voluminous books. And we've just given up on it. It's almost like a muscle we don't use any longer. And yeah, I've heard not just India, but cultures all around, especially Eastern countries, that was all in memory and reciting. And sometimes, like the other day, I was in like a secondhand store, and I was with my son, and he goes, "What's that?" And he points to some very peculiar 1950s calculator machine, like an abacus, but like weirder. And I was like, you know what? I don't know what that is. It's like we've lost touch with old instruments. And this instrument is our mind and our intelligence. We just don't know how to use it anymore. So we just sort of like watch little clips that happen in, less than a minute. And that's all our attention span goes for. So, okay, thank you for that. Did you want to share some of your favorite shlokas, Sheshika Prabhu?
Sure. One comment is that memorizing verses from the Bhagavad Gita, although I'm not absolutely necessary to do so, you can read them and relish them, or even listen to others read them, or recordings of that. But even memorizing is not a gymnastic feat, although it does take a little bit of concentration and repetition. But each one of them has such deep meaning. And it's a way of absorbing the mind. I find there's so many distractions nowadays, and the mind can easily give up and just give in to some sort of mindless engagement. Scrolling is one. And almost the polar opposite to that is thinking of a verse of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so one of them that I like that sort of follows with this train of thought is one some of you may have known or heard, but it's the verse in Bhagavad Gita that Srila Prabhupada commentated upon or spoke upon more than any other verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Do you know what it is, Kaustubha or Raghunath?
529?
I'm guessing 1515.
It's 7-1. It starts Sri
7-1,
Bhagavanu Vacha Maya Sakta Mana Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashaya Asamshayam Samagraman Yata Gyasya Sitat Shrinu. And in this verse, Krishna says, he's speaking at Sri Bhagavanu Vacha, you should, with mind attached to me, he says, attach your mind to me. And he said, Tat Shrinu, if you just hear, then you'll understand everything without any doubt. And then in the next verse, he goes on to say what you'll understand, everything phenomenal and numinous, which means everything within the material world and the spiritual world. The part that I find absolutely stunning about that and encouraging is that if you just hear, now that's something I can do. I can show up and listen. I don't have to do anything fancy. I just have to be there and be aware, just listen. And just by listening, he's saying, Tat Shrinu in this verse, you'll come to this stage of consciousness where you'll be fixed in mind and in heart also. You'll know where you're going. You'll know the purpose of life. Your doubts will be cleared, he says. And all you have to do, Tat Shrinu, just hear carefully. The vibration itself will inform you. And just to relate to that, another verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 10:10, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. The first time I read that, I felt so close to Krishna, because he said, I'm there within your heart. And if you're sincere and you just try for this, dadami means I'll give you buddhi, intelligence. I'll open the door for you. I'll let in the light, whatever metaphor I can throw in there. And he's there ready, waiting. So if you just try to hear, if you just show a little sincerity, even if you think, I don't know anything, and I can't even understand what's being said, even then, which is something that Prabhupada said when he first started listening to his spiritual master. He said, I couldn't understand everything he was saying, but I stayed and I listened, and then it all became clear. So those are two verses that I cherish. Of course, every one of them is like an individual little temple you can enter into and stay fully engaged in. But those are two I think of frequently.
Thank you. Those are beautiful.
Very nice.
Kastuba's turn.
You know, I wanted to share a verse that's actually not in the Bhagavad Gita, but that is Bhagavad Gita related, if that's okay.
And I'm sorry, we're not accepting that today.
All right. Then you go ahead.
Judges.
Keep to the Gita. This is a Gita Jayanti today. This is from the New Testament.
Okay, so this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 15, text number 27, and it's this verse is spoken by Arjuna, so it's even more, you know, Gita related. And this was spoken, you know, as I practice bhakti more and the years go on, and you know, I have friends, like right now I'm staying with Tara Prabhu, you know, and he and I, you know, 30 years ago we were reading Bhagavad Gita together, you know, and relishing it, and now here we are 35 years later and doing the exact same thing and relishing it more than ever before, you know. Gita's like that. It's because it's not mundane. It's actually spiritual, and you find that it's really unlimited. There's always more in it. And but beyond that, you know, beyond just that this helps guide my life and this is relishable to read and discuss and gives insights, in Arjuna's case and in our own cases, it also saved him when he was in the crucial moment of his life, right? In that crucial moment, in that, you know, you read the whole Mahabharata, you see that when Arjuna's on that battlefield, the whole book's been building to that moment where he's being called upon to step up and take up a very difficult task, and everybody's looking towards him to accomplish it, and he breaks down. And so everything that externally, everything that he had built in his life, from going from like his own personal deepest relationships, like with that he had with his own wife, who he had vowed that he would step up on the battlefield for, you know, and his brothers, those that he loved the most. But you know, his reputation as a warrior was on the line. But beyond that, you know, there were huge political consequences to him stepping up in that moment, and he was entirely unable to. In a sense, it was crushing and embarrassing. That at the key moment in your life, you hesitate, you chicken out, you know. And this verse speaks to that when you're in your toughest point in life, if you're accustomed to hearing wisdom, then it can save you in that moment and become so powerfully transformational. So this was spoken after Krishna had left, right? Krishna had passed on from the earth. And Arjuna's brother, Yudhishthira, who was the king at that point, he saw all kind of inauspicious omens. And when Arjuna returns to him, to Hastinapur, he begins to ask, you know, I've seen all kinds of inauspicious omens, and when I look at your face, I know something's wrong. And he begins to list all the possible things, all the inauspicious things that Arjuna might have done or seen that might have caused him to feel that way. And then the last one he mentions is, or could it be that, you know, our beloved Sri Krishna has departed? And Arjuna says, yes, that's what happened. And then he tells the story about how that happened and all his own personal grief in that moment. And then he shares this verse, and this verse is beautiful. You know, it's such a nice verse. You know, so he's saying, yeah, it's been very hard for me, but, and then he shares this text again. It's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 15, Text 27. I'll read the Sanskrit. Deshakalarta yuktani ritapo pashamani cha haranti smarataschitam Govinda bihitani me. Arjuna says, now, meaning like now that I'm going through so much difficulty and grief, but there's something that I'm hanging on to right now. Now, I'm attracted to those instructions imparted to me by the personality of Godhead, Govinda, Sri Krishna, because they are impregnated with instructions for relieving the burning heart in all circumstances of time and space. Right? No matter what we're going through, no matter how difficult it is, how crazy it is, you're going to find something there in the Bhagavad Gita that's going to give you the direction that you need. And I just thought maybe I could read a little bit from the commentary that Prabhupada shares here. He writes, the problem which arose in the heart of Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra was solved by the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Again, after the departure of the Lord from the vision of earthly people, when Arjuna was face to face with being vanquished in his acquired power and prominence, he wanted again to remember the great teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, just to teach all concerned that the Bhagavad Gita can be consulted in all critical times, not only for solace from all kinds of mental agonies. And, you know, people are just going through so much mental agony in this world, right? We all feel it. Not only for solace from all kinds of mental agonies, but also as a way out of great entanglements, which may embarrass one in some critical hour.
Ow.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Poignant stuff here.
Poignant.
Embarrassing life. Embarrassing material existence.
Embarrassing, entangling.
Been there, done that.
Agony. Okay. He continues. He says, the merciful Lord left behind him the great teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, so that one can take the instruction of the Lord even when he is not visible to the material eyesight. Material senses cannot have any estimation of the Supreme Lord, but by his inconceivable power, the Lord can incarnate himself to the sense perception of the conditioned souls in a suitable manner through the agency of matter, which is also another form of the Lord's manifested energy. Thus, the Bhagavad Gita, or any authentic scriptural sound representation of the Lord, is also the incarnation of the Lord. There is no difference between the sound representation of the Lord and the Lord himself. One can derive the same benefit from the Bhagavad Gita as Arjuna did in the personal presence of the Lord. Nice, huh?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
So you can, every one of us can extend ourselves a bit at this special time. Take part in this wonderful campaign. Reach out to the devoted Malini at, again, +1 669 289 5563, and just contribute in any way that you can. And let's see what we can do together to kind of reach out. Because again, we all know, it's no secret. We're all going through mental agonies. We're all going through great entanglements, and we're all embarrassing ourselves, even in the most critical hours. And
right after the show, I'll embarrass myself.
Okay. Any hour will do to embarrass ourselves. So this is an opportunity to really do something special. It's good. It's good for people that get it. It's good for us to reach out to. So Vaisheshika Prabhu, it's always a joy to have you here. I admire your service so much, that the depth of your realization and your faith in the value and the power of the Bhagavad Gita has led directly to literally millions of them being distributed around the world. So I from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your service and for your association.
Well, Kochira Koso, as they say in Japan, right back at you. To you and Raghunath Prabhu and team and everybody here in Wisdom of the Sages. Thank you very much for carrying this on. The vibration that all of you create together in this amazing space is resounding all over the world. It really is. People, what you do in one place, so many great enterprises, even materially, have started in dusty garages and have transformed the world. And the great teachers have also started their teachings in small little places. This is no small thing that you're doing here. It's not a dusty garage either. It's well developed, and it's a continual broadcast of transcendental sound vibration. It always has a transformative and positive effect. And I thank you very much for letting me peek in here and get faith in the process of Krishna consciousness every time I see all of you. Such a joy. Thank you. No, I've been looking at everyone's faces and everything. You're all here, and it's just you can't speak without a receptive audience, right?
Yeah, beautiful people.
And it's the combination is unbeatable. Thank you very much, everyone.
Hey, maybe we could do one thing before we cut out. Maybe little Karuna could chant one Gita shloka for us today.
Okay, Karuna, you're on.
Has to unmute.
You got to unmute your camera.
Hello, Karuna. Would you
Live
like to
from
chant
Lebanon.
Live from Lebanon. Would you like to chant shloka for us?
Sure.
Can you hear us?
Yes. Okay. Bhagavad Gita 8.21. Avyaktoksha iktukta stamahu paramam gatimyam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That which the Vedantas describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which having attained it one never returns, that is my supreme abode.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Karunaji. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Raghunath's really looking forward to it. Mara, too.
You know, I had all these great verses I wanted to read today. We didn't get around to getting into that much of the Gita. You know, I think we should, when we do our new platform, we should have a whole little, whatever, a mini pod. What do we call those?
No podcast?
Like perkcast of just going through the Gita all day. 3.5 hour, 5.5 hour Gita that we can do. And we should do one live on Patreon as well, because maybe next year we'll do it live and we'll just read the Gita all day, because now I'm inspired. I'm ready to read the Gita.
Now I'm inspired. We're going to do it next year.
I'll see you in 364 days, people. Thanks to everybody for joining us, and thanks for Visheshika Prabhu for joining us. And special show today. And make sure you take advantage of distributing or receiving Gitas for whoever would like them. It's a great day to spread the word. That's how we do this. It's an organic transmission of transcendental sound, and it is truly revolutionary. It's not just it's actually changing the whole consciousness of the culture. Don't think that giving this information away doesn't change the world and you're just spiritually bypassing. You're actually doing real transformation. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Thanks for the Zoom community. And anybody who wants to join us live on Zoom, you can do that. wisdomofthesages.com or wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Email Miss Mara. She will send you the secret links to join our little morning family. Thanks, everybody.
And we're back on Sunday with the Q&A. Send in a question if you like.
Yeah. Q&A is Sunday this week. No show tomorrow because we got a bunch of 9-year-olds sleeping over.
Is that right?
Yeah, we're having a Gita Jayante with the kids.
Okay.